Hello everybody, we're doing something a little different tonight. I'm not in the cockpit, as you might imagine from the sound of my voice. I am trackside, so we're going to be broadcasting the last round of what is called the Lamborghini Sprint Series. And it's going to be taking us around the streets of Adelaide in the 1991 version, so I believe it's the version that's got the longer of the back straights. And this championship has had some weird and wonderful tracks with street cars. It's been a very I think I've missed a couple of rounds, but we've been to some weird and wonderful tracks in this 6-race season. So looking at the calendar, we headed to the first round, which was at the Le Mans 1986 layout. That was missing out the first chicane, and I believe it missed out the second. Yeah, we went all the way down to Mulsanne Straight, so just completely flat out for most of that. So drafting battles plenty, and then the next round we were at Mount Panorama at Bathurst. I didn't have a good run out at Bathurst, unfortunately. I missed the round at Mid-Ohio in the third round, but I was able to broadcast the fourth round at Salzburg Ring. I think I had forgotten I was supposed to be taking part in a race, actually, and when I had realised, I just set up the stream and said, well, I'll just do it from trackside, it should be fine. And then the last round at Watkins Glen Shore, I was having a really tough time because I was really off the pace. I didn't expect to be that far off the pace. I just don't think I got a handle on these cars. And I think I said in that race, and if you've watched the VOD of that race, I said in that race that that's it for me. I'm not going to compete in the remaining round. So going around the circuit of Watkins Glen, even on the shorter circuit, which was just missing out the boot, but included the bus stop chicane, I've just had enough. So Adelaide in 1991, so this should be at least a bit interesting. We're probably going to be quite short on drivers today. We're still going through the practice session, but so I don't know what the volume of the engines are going to be like, so you have to bear with me for that. Alright, so we've actually got the game is actually taking care of the cameras tonight. So if they give us some dodgy camera angles, then it's up to the computer. I can actually manually switch, so it's not too bad, but it's sometimes easier when the computer can take care of it. So in terms of the season standings, there has been 5 rounds so far. Lars Hagman does actually lead the championship, and the points follow kind of like the old school Formula 1. So it's 10 for first, 6 for second, 4 for third, and then 3, 2, 1 down to 6th place. So Costas can actually win the championship today, but he has to beat Lars Hagman by, if I've got my maths right, 7 points. So if Costas wins the race today, that would give him 10 points. So Lars would have to finish, I'm doing it on the fly, so 4th, maybe 3rd or higher. So there's that. Let's put our timing box on so we can see what we're doing. And we're just doing some practice at the moment, as Costas is coming around the streets of Adelaide. We're using an add-on track for Adelaide. There's been a track creator that has been making all of the 90s F1 tracks, which we've used quite frequently thanks to them. But it does look like I have actually given them some feedback on some of the tracks we have used, because as you can see, the tarmac is a bit light. I don't think Adelaide ever had tarmac that was a very light grey, so the tarmac texture probably needs to be toned down a bit. Was that not someone reversing out of the escape road? I think that was Sim Pitstop. So if you haven't been around for Sim Racing Online before, Sim Racing Online do go by some different rules to maybe some other series. That when you do qualifying, you go for an out lap, and then you do your fast lap, or fast laps, depending on how many you do, and you've got to do an in lap. If you crash, then you're going to be that's you done, unless you can limp back to the pits. But as this is a 90s circuit, the curbs are very, very high. And I believe this layout is actually used in Formula 1 in the 90s, up until I think 95 was the last time they used it. And I remember on this part of the circuit, Mika Hakkinen left the road at speed, hit a curb, and he actually hit the barrier at a rate of knots, and he had to be seen to on the circuit. He was a very, very lucky man. So at the moment, Costas Kanzouris is actually setting the pace. Let's see if we can actually get the initials on there. For some reason, I'm only getting first names, which is a bit strange. Maybe. Let's see if I can set it to initial and last name. That's better, because we've got two brothers in the field today, and it would be a bit confusing otherwise. So you've got Lars Hagman in second at the moment, and Bjorn Hagman in third. John van der Geest currently in the pits in fourth, with Pichler in fifth. So we've got at least about, if I've done my maths, 13 minutes of practice left. Qualifying is going to be at 7 o'clock. Right, so let's see if we can switch the cameras a little bit. This is Lars Hagman. He'll be in the nice multicoloured Lamborghini. Very, very colourful. So he is in a team with his brother Bjorn. Twin Speed is their team. And then you have Philip Pichler in Team Solitude in the nice yellow Lamborghini. And if we switch to Bjorn Hagman, he's currently in the pits at the moment in an orange Lamborghini. Haven't quite got the icons correct for that. And our series host, a nice green Lamborghini. He's changed his skin again. But John van der Geest for GEAR in a very bright Sim Racing Online livery. We did have a number of custom liveries that were made for us just before the season started. One of our members kindly made some custom liveries, because in this mod you didn't get a lot of choice. They were just solid colour, but so as I say, this is a street car, and I believe it's probably on treaded tyres. I don't think they're on slicks. It's still quick because it's probably considered a supercar. I'm not sure if it's in hypercar. I can't remember what type of Lamborghini it is, because they all look the same to me personally. But from experience, it doesn't really like going over the curbs very much. I'm noticing that the game sound is quite low, and I don't know why it's going Let's see if I can get that to... let's set it to about 9-ish. I'll have to check that out in my settings, because I have some auto leveling, which will help with volume changes. I'm sure I sorted that, but maybe not. So there's a little bit of a pace difference between the drivers at the moment. But, so Lars Hagman is normally at the top. So if we look at Lars Hagman this season so far, he missed the first round, but he won round 2, 3 and 5, and his only other position was 3rd in round 4. So a pretty good run for Lars so far. Costas in the white with a red stripe. Second in the championship, being very consistent throughout the season. From rounds 1 to 4, he was in 2nd place, and the last round was in 4th. So if he had finished maybe a bit further up in that last round, maybe he would have been a bit closer to this final round. Pichler just coming out the pits. Let's have a look at what he's been doing for the season. Pichler is actually 3rd in the championship at the moment. He actually won the first round. His only other high finish was a podium finish in round 3, and then for the rest of them, round 2 and 4 he was 5th, and in round 5 he was in 6th place. Nice helicam we've got here. Lovely helicam. So at the moment, you can probably in the background, we're listening to a couple of albums tonight. I usually have music scheduled for the time that they came out, around about the same time in the year. So I've got 2 albums. One of which is a Dream Theater's Train of Thought album, which released on the 11th of November, way back in 2003, I believe. And the other album was Pearl Jam's Riot album, which came out in 2002 on the 12th of November. So me. So let's see if we can have go around the track on board. So if we're going to head into turn 1, we're going to take it as tight to the wall as you can, bumping over the curbs. This car does not like bumping over curbs too much. You don't want to run onto that curb on the left. Into right-hander, head up the hill. This is where the infamous accident between Damon Hill and Michael Schumacher occurred, I believe, in 1994. And then we got a moderate quick S-bend. And you've got to be really careful here not to run over the curb, because your car will actually ground out all that curb on the left. Tight entry onto the back straight. It kind of feels a bit awkward because the curb seems to come up a bit too early, way down the back straight, and you have to find where that curb is on the left so you don't hit it in the braking zone. Slowest corner on the track. And accelerate hard down to left-hander. The car in front gets it all wrong and we just about miss. I believe that was Bjorn Hagman in front. Just got it a little bit loose. Alex Phillip gets it all wrong in the last turn. But he is green and green in the first and second sector, so he is improving all the time. So he's getting closer and closer to the front. But meanwhile, the practice times of Kanzuris and Lars have been within half a second of each other. So these are the top two in the championship. And this is relatively different from other races that you do at Sim Racing Online. This is only a 30-minute sprint. Usually the races are about 45 minutes to an hour. But this is only 30 minutes rather. And we are expecting just no weather changes. It will be perfectly dry. So no particular problems. Just letting his brother through. His twin brother, I believe. That's hence the name of their team. So not quite a personal best in the first sector. Tires are probably not up to temperature just yet. But he's able to run the curbs pretty well. Bouncing over the curbs. A horrible tight entry to that. I don't really want to run too wide either. Down the back straight. Just got to be very mindful that you don't run too wide over to that edge there. Personally, I prefer the older F1 tracks. I know they've got higher curbs and things, but then maybe it's rose-tinted glasses for myself. I kind of prefer the classic historic stuff. They just seem to have a better flow. You know, runoff is all grass or gravel. So we've got a personal best in that last sector, but he was the fastest of everyone in the middle sector, so he's doing well in that middle section. So the middle section is the start of the S's all the way up to the end of the straight. So I wonder whether he's maybe on a little less wing, or maybe got a better run out onto the back straight than before. So he's only 2 tenths away from the practice time of Kanzuris at the moment. To Bjorn is putting in some personal bests. Again, he's got 3 seconds to find. I did find at Watkins Glen that there was a big a performance gap between some of the drivers. Some drivers have got a handle on this car, some haven't. I was one of the drivers that hadn't. So that's why I'm not competing today. I thought I would do it from the trackside. I thought I'd watch some racing rather than actually competing in it. So as I say, this is a little bit different for sim racing online because we're normally using racing cars, and we're not usually using such a short series. But simracingonline.co.uk if you want to sign up for any of the series that our admins are putting on. Get a bit late for that turn there. I don't know if the automatic cameras are functioning. It sometimes doesn't work very well in practice, but there's not that many drivers, so I can switch around if need be. So as I say, we run R-Factor 2 in some of the main events. We have a couple of series with Auto Blister 2. The Le Mans Ultimate seasons are cranking up. I think they're still in the test stages at the moment, so we get the server settings and things correct. believe there is a point where we are going to be heading to Race Room as well. So Race Room Experience, which is a free-to-play game with paid DLC. I've tried Race Room myself. I quite enjoy it. It runs quite well in VR. It's quite stable. It's looking a bit dated-ish. Looks like you can power slide this car quite well. Right, so it looks like we are heading to Quali. So let's see who's going out first. Who do we have going out first? Is someone coming down the pit lane? It's championship leader Lars that's coming out first. It's a clean track in front of him. Ah, the automatic cameras are working, which is good. So we only have 9.5 minutes left of quali. It's only a 10-minute quali session, so they should get a few laps in. Not sure what drivers will be doing in terms of how many fast laps they do, and I sometimes prefer just to fuel up for the entire session and just try and get better and better, because it takes me a little while to warm up. I don't necessarily like just putting in one fast lap. That's not really my style. So the championship leader is getting a gap. So he's slowing up. That's Pushler behind him. Now we're going to see Lars Hagman just coming across the line to start his first lap. I wonder whether the director will stick with this car or not. But we'll have to keep an eye on the sector. So bumping over the curves in the first part of the lap. Doesn't run too wide. Just misses that entry curb. No particular dramas coming into this right, left as we head up the hill. Not running too wide either. So purple in the first sector, as he is the first one to set the sector times. So purple in the first sector. So we head up the hill. Conzeros is now purple in the first sector, but not by much. I think about a couple of tenths faster than Lars Hagman, so Lars Hagman has to find a little bit. As Conzeros heads up the hill, bumping over the curves, but Hagman is now set purple in the second sector, 29.4. Costas is not far behind, so let's see if Costas can beat. He's at 29.5, so he's close. I mean, it says purple on the sheets there, but I think that's wrong. According to the sector times. There we go, it's updated itself. So Lars Hagman goes top with a 130.8. Hagman 132.9, so time to find it. As Pushler goes round in, I believe that's the final turn. Not really too much steering lock there to get into the pits. Oh, it looks like Lars has had a little bit of an off. He's going to get his car turned around. Oh! And I think he might have found a hole in the track. That's unfortunate. He is on provisional pole at the moment, but he's not safe. He's only 1/10. He's only got 1/10. So Kanzurus is now faster in the second flying lap. Faster in the first sector by quite a considerable margin. So that was a costly mistake from Hagman, but can Hagman, Lars in this case, can he stay on the front row? As Costas comes down the back straight. Personally best in the second sector. This should be probably provisional pole. It's only 5.5 minutes to go. Squeeze of the brake pedal. Looked like there was a little lock up and his car lurched a bit right in the braking there. Coming over the line, it's going to be a 130.5, so the provisional pole. So costly mistake from Lars Hagman. Now 3/10 behind. As Bjorn bumps over the curb. I think he got a little bit unsighted on that corner entry. I thought that he could have widened the turn a little bit more, but no. He just bumped over the curb. And because this car is particularly close to the ground, it doesn't like being straddled across these curbs. And you have to be very careful that you don't beach your car, because if you beach your car, that's it. You may, unless you have some kind soul that will push you off the curb on the next lap, perhaps. So we've got just two people out on track at the moment. Pichler has not set a lap, and it looks like John van der Geest may have had a problem on his time lap, so he won't set a lap either. So Costas, after coming across a slow Bjorn Hagman, that's one way to get into the pits. Very interesting way of doing it. So Pichler is now putting a personal best in the first sector. Unsurprising, because he hasn't set a lap yet. Personal best in the second. Does he have anything for Bjorn Hagman in third? Currently needs to beat a 132.5. He was close in practice, but still. No dramas out the final corner either, so across the line he's actually going to put in the lap time of 131.8, so he does indeed go up to third place. Now after that quick pit stop, Costas is out again. Feels like putting an extended lap time on. I believe he's probably safe. Because Lars Hagman crashed out of quali, he can't go out again. So it is only Kanzurus and Pichler that can improve. So Pichler has to find a second. I don't know whether we can find an extra second to get onto the front row of the grid. So missing the curve on the inside by millimetres, but just bumping over the outside curb. So personal best in the first. All the way down the back straight. And the personal best. Slight lock up on the inside there though. I imagine that's going to be a significant passing opportunity once you get in the draft down that back straight. It's just following, and I think it's going to be the problem. As you would expect from a street circuit, not a lot of places to pass. So let's see if that's an improvement. So now a 31.5, not really a significant improvement. Kanzurus has now moved the Maybe trying to move the goalposts, or just using the rest of quali to get his eye in. Maybe going out on race fuel. So we've got a couple of things coming up with Sim Racing Online leading up to Christmas. I know that I'm going to still be competing in some Automobilista 2. And there will be a 3-round series just before Christmas, which will be using the Group 2 Lotus Cortina. So if you haven't seen what a Group 2 Lotus Cortina is, normally the pictures you see of it is normally either hopping on 2 wheels or sideways. So I'd imagine that it's it's going to be a bit of a slidey devil. And it's going to be competing on UK tracks, all with Park in their name. I don't know if that was intentional. So Donington Park, Cadwell Park and Alton Park. So Philip Pichler, stylish entry to the pit. So because this is a 30-minute sprint, we aren't really expecting pit stops. I have heard from some of the other drivers that they were suffering at Watkins Glen with tyre wear. Because to get the most out of this car, you really have to lean on the tyres a lot. And I imagine that tyre wear at a street circuit like this might be a bit more than any other circuit. So I believe that's it. I'm going to set the starting order. It looks like everybody has done their stuff. So let's have a look at the starting grid. So not many of us tonight. So Kansuris does indeed snatch pole. Lars Hagman, unfortunately, after that costly spin in the mid pack, gets second. Philip Pichler third. Bjorn Hagman in fourth. And John van der Geest, I don't think he actually went out for a lap in the end. He's starting at the back of the grid. So, just a 5-minute warm-up session. It's going to be dependent on whether drivers want to go out for a last minute check of race fuel. Maybe practice their starts. That's always something that I find is sometimes helpful. We're going to be starting on a level grade, but the first chicane at Adelaide, I wouldn't exactly say that you could go through there too wide. I think you've got to trust your competitors quite significantly if you are thinking about it. But so I've been having to look through some of the mods and well, all the cars and the tracks that are available. Maybe trying to think of maybe a theme, or maybe trying to emulate a already existing series. So some of the ideas I've had is maybe to the historic cars, because I like historic cars. My focus is sometimes there, but it can be not well attended, let's say. Just not many people like historic cars, which I find a shame. But also there are perhaps some NASCARs that could be an option. We don't do. I don't think we've ever done any oval racing at Sim Racing Online. We perhaps have done it in the past. R Factor 2 is not really a stable platform for that. I believe Automobilista 2 is getting some oval content. It's got some ovals already, but there was a leak not long ago where stock cars suddenly appeared, which was completely out of the blue for a lot of people. They were like, stock cars? They're making stock cars. So I think there's a stock car. I think there's 4. One from each significant era, going back to the early to late 70s up to the 2000s. So yeah. The only problem with Automobilista 2, of course, is sometimes the multiplayer can be less stable than other platforms we use, which is unfortunate. But again, we'll have to see what Sim Racing Online do with Race Room, because there's a lot of content with Race Room, and I believe they do have a way of being able to compete with cars and tracks that you don't own. So you don't have to own all of the content to race on a particular server, so that might help financially. There isn't a lot of content in the base game for Race Room, so admins are going to have to bear that in mind. So I believe this is going to be a standing start. I'm kind of holding my breath for the first turn, because it might get a little bit tight. And just to remind you, there is still a championship up for grabs, and it is between Lars Hagman and Costas Kanzouras, and they actually share the front row. So how greedy do you want to be in the first turn? Costas basically has to win. Lars Hagman doesn't really need to take too many risks. He can hang back, because Costas Kanzouras has to beat Lars by about 7 points to take the championship today. And looking back at the rest of the field, so Kanzouras in second has got 27 points. Pichler has 19 points. So it's still within reach of Pichler, but Costas would have to have an absolute nightmare tonight. Pichler would have to beat Costas by 8 points. And that is possible, but a very, very tall order, I think. Very tall order indeed. Let's put our driver box on so we can see a little bit of the telemetry of what these guys are dealing with around the street circuit. So let's see if they go down to first gear for the hairpin. We've about run out of time for warm-up, so we might not get the chance to see it. No, we are not.
Attention grid, will all non-essential personnel leave the grid now?
Okay. Right, everyone's heading to the grid. Some people are leaving it very, very late to get to the grid. There we go. So we have a final race of the season of the Lamborghini Sprint Series. Heading into this very, very tight turn 1. So a good start from our top 2. Line astern. John van der Geest doesn't look like he's got going. Maybe he's stalled on the line. But clean through the first 3 turns. I wonder if John van der Geest has some technical problems. He has suffered with a few technical problems throughout these RFX2 seasons. But he is static on the grid at the moment. So, line astern. Costas is doing what he needs to do out front. Oh, and slightly hits the curb on the outside, getting a little bit squirrely, so it looks like there may be a battle on for third and fourth, but again I want to keep an eye on first and second. Because there may be some fireworks But again, Costas needs to win this race and score 7 points more than Lars. But at this point in time, Lars Hagman is doing what he needs to do, but does he want to go out on a high from this season and win it? He's always been very competitive in whatever series he has run with us. So a battle with the top two and a battle with third and fourth. So Hagman has probably got Philip Pichler for company for this entire race. It does look like that John Van der Geest has some problems on the grid there. So drivers know where he is, so they can miss him for the next lap. So go on board with Philip Pichler going through these famous turns from 1994. Schumacher hit the wall and Damon Hill and him collided at that turn up on the hill. So Lars Hagman is putting Costas under pressure. Doesn't need to, of course, but it's all a bit different once you get the in your sim rig and you start the race. You know what you have to do. Doesn't mean you don't want to compete for wins, of course. So all the way down the back straight, 260 odd kilometres an hour. So we do go down to first gear for the hairpin. A second for this left-hand kink. So Lars Hagman is not letting Kanzuris get away. Looks like Bjorn was heading to the pits, but unfortunately misjudged it and collided with the pit wall. Maybe he got the braking all wrong. He wasn't indeed heading to the pits, but looks like he may have locked the rears, and that tyre stack at the end of the pit wall was waiting for him. Isn't that kind of what David Coulthard did in 1995? Very embarrassing. Came into pit lane, braked a bit too late, and just hit the pit wall. Imagine he got an earful from Frank Williams on that day. So Lars Hagman is keeping Kanzuris honest. Within a second, I believe you need to be within about 0.7, so at least be within a chance of draft. Unfortunately, it looks like Hagman has decided that it's not worth continuing. There was still 25 minutes of racing to go. That is unfortunate. So we only have 3 remaining drivers in the race, so it does look like at this point in time Kanzuris will grab 10 points. Lars Hagman would grab 6 points, and I believe even if Lars Hagman finished in 3rd place, he would be grabbing 4 points. I don't think Lars Hagman can actually lose the championship. We'll do some quick maths on the table here. So it does look like Lars Hagman is doing enough. If he finished in 3rd, he would still win the championship by 1 point. So I bet that Kanzuris is ruining the day of that 4th place last time out at Watkins Glen, because he could have done with a few more points to make this a bit more competitive in the final round. So as I said before, we're using tracks from what you might consider a 1990s pack. I remember keeping an eye on the ASR Discord. There's a couple of track modders in there that have been making 90s tracks to fit with their 90s F1 cars. and Adelaide is one of them. Off the top of my head, they have produced Hockenheim, was one other, Silverstone, Adelaide, of course. I think Monza was on the list too. What's really clever as well, they've made some of the 90s layouts, but they've actually changed some of the advertising boards to go through like the 1991 look-alike, and then the 1992, 3, 4, etc. Because each year it would have changed its look a little. Not dramatically. I mean, the layout of the track wouldn't have changed. But I believe there's probably a few tracks in the 90s season. If you're familiar with Formula 1 at all. During 1994, when we had those horrible accidents and unfortunate deaths from Senna and Roman Ratzenberger, we had some of the tracks went a little bit overboard with wanting to tone down the maybe the dangerous nature of the layouts of the tracks, so they put some really bad chicanes in. Some of the chicanes I remember, I think Spa Francorchamps had they tried to slow down Eau Rouge, which is the very quick turn heading up the hill into Raidillon, and they decided, let's put a chicane at the start of that so that the drivers aren't going there full throttle. I don't think that was very popular for many drivers. But that corner has actually caused a lot of accidents. Does look like Lars may have had an accident. Is he going to get going again? He has got going. The director was able to pick him up. So now we've got a battle on our hands again. Lars doesn't really need to do an awful lot. He can settle back in third. Even if he stays here, he's got the championship. I have to actually look back at some of the stats, because Sim Racing Online does have a good website system where you can look back at drivers' stats and championships they've won and things like that. So if we have a look, let's have a look at Lars to see. He hasn't been with us long. He's quite new to Sim Racing Online. As Pichler gets it all wrong at the end of the hairpin. That's unfortunate. I can see 3 series that Lars has taken part in. So he's been with us since March this year. He took part in the IndyCar series. Unfortunately, he finished 14th in the championship there. He did take 1 win though. Again, he was with us for the Porsche 935s. Finished 11th in the championship. And another series he's been in is the LMU, or Le Mans Ultimate GT3 Masterclass, and he was able to come away with a championship win there. So, looking back at Philip Pichler, let's see what Philip Pichler has been up to with Sim Racing Online. He is a regular. I've raced against him quite often. Let's see. He's actually taken 2 championships with us. One in 2018, which was the Formula 2 Six Nations Trophy, and then in March 2021 the BMW Batmobile Legends Trophy. Group 5 tracks. Oh, Kansas is hopping over those curves. Hopping over the curves. But he has been competing in quite a few series. I'm looking at his overall events. So his events, the races he's done, 522 races. So he's been around a little bit. Let's just say that. But we were expecting a few more drivers today. Unfortunately, some of the series with Sim Racing Online, they suffer from a good entry at the start, but it doesn't. It tends to peter off at the end. I don't know why that is. Maybe the mentality of the drivers that enter. Some of them maybe want to go for championship wins, so if they don't like the car and tracks at the start, if they have a hard time in the first couple of rounds, then they decide, I'm not going to take part in the rest. Anything might happen in these races. It is motor racing after all. And sometimes a little bit disappointing when you want to compete in the full 6-race series and the numbers get less and less and less. But, and I have spoken to the admins of Sim Racing Online to see if it's maybe the car choices, the track choices, to see if it's something that's not inspiring the members. There may be some cars that a lot of members would like to compete in. So a couple of the recent series that we have done is Formula 1 1984 series. That was quite well attended. Again, it did have some lack of numbers towards the end, but that was quite fun. I was behind the cameras for that, or in fact in the broadcast booth, and I was able to put together a good graphics package for that, and it's broadcast on the Sim Racing Online YouTube channel. And I'm yet again behind the microphone this Sunday for what is their fourth round of the World Series. But we're using the World Sports Car 70s mod, which is the Porsche 917. The Class 2s are a mod which is called the GT Revival mod, which is mimicking the cars that are used for the GT Revival at Goodwood every year. So you've got old 60s and 70s cars like the Ford Mustang. Off the top of my head, I think there's a Shelby Cobra, Ferrari GTO, Corvette C2. I think there's quite a number of interesting cars, but again, that's suffering a little with numbers in the GT class. I suppose it doesn't help as well. At the end of the year, maybe a lot of people are maybe a bit tired of competing in the series. They just want to wind down to the end of the year, but we'll see. As I say, this series was particularly drastic change from anything that we've done using street cars. I don't think we've used street cars for at least the series that I've raced in. It's always been racing cars of some form or... Excuse me. So I'm just trying to think what other series... I mean, if I look at the series that I've been in... so I've been in Sim Racing Online since... I think it was around COVID. That I decided... I think I'd signed up with Sim Racing Online, just signed up to the website, because I spotted their... spotted one of their league announcements, basically. So looking back at my stats, I don't want to blow my own horn, but how many? I've taken 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 championships. There was even one series, which was in the Porsche 992, where I didn't win a single round, and I still won the championship. I was just the most consistent driver out there. That was a very interesting series because we had some variable weather in there. A lot of the people, or a lot of the members, didn't like it because of it. They were so used to maybe optimal track conditions that anything different than that, it was like completely out of their comfort zone. But I loved it. I think it was great. So the first championship I won was in 2021 in June. Although saying that, I did take part in the championship where I was the only driver in one of the classes, and because of stubbornness, I think I decided to compete in all 6 rounds. So I won the championship by default. Bit annoying, but you know, it is what it is. I think there was another championship which was the Porsche versus Ferrari Sprint Championship. And I think I was either the only one in the Porsche or the only one in a Ferrari, so I came away with a class victory. So it looks like Lars is having some good fun out there bouncing over the curves. So even though there's just 3 drivers left in the race with only 12 minutes to go, still looks like they're having a good fun with this car. I don't know what it is that didn't click for me with this car. Maybe it was the driving style of it. I'm not too sure. Because I was driving as hard as I could at Watkins Glen, and I was still many seconds off the pace. I mean, maybe I didn't take down the tyre pressures enough, or I didn't have enough wing on it, because I was trying to take all of the wing off, because I felt that I was missing some top speed. I think I remember at Bathurst, I put all of the wing on it, because it handled better through the twisty section, and then I just sacrificed speed on the straight. So all of the championships that I'm looking at, I think it's the majority of it has been tin top races or GT. Yeah, so a lot of touring cars and GTs. That's been the most common. But there is a big library of things that we can call from. If you wanted to emulate a series, you could. It's just sometimes I think maybe numbers have dipped because if there's maybe too many cars to pick from, a lot of members will look at the series and go, well, there's too many cars to choose from. It's going to take too much time to figure out which one I want to take, you know. Some series probably do well if they're a single make series, and there's not a lot of chances of some of the cars not being level in performance, because that's always a worry. Because admins don't really want to be messing around with trying to balance it themselves, putting on weight penalties and stuff like that. Because a lot of the admins that do set up these series, they race in the series themselves, so can't really be doing anything too dramatic. But as I say, there's plenty of opportunity to have some weird and wonderful car and track combinations. I think even coming back to some of there's some 90s touring cars. I know that Sim Racing Online did do a series with those a while back. It might be good to do some of that again because some of the cars have been updated. And I think maybe new ones were released since they did the series. And they did introduce the World Series this year, which meant there was 4 nominated series throughout the year, and drivers will be adding up all of their points on aggregate from those 4 series, and the driver at the end with the most points will win the World Series, and I think there's a prize in it for them. Unfortunately, it's kind of up to me to do the provisional points to broadcast on Sunday, so I've got to make sure that I'm doing my maths correctly. I don't want to announce the wrong thing. Now, just thinking back, the first one in the World Series was using the IndyCar. I think it was the IR18. I can't remember which one it was. I think it was actually using the paid version of the IndyCar. Sim Racing Online doesn't tend to go for paid DLC in their series. They like to use some of the free content that's out there. I'm blanking on what the second series was in the World Series. I don't think I took part in it. But the third was... I'm just looking back at some of the stats. As I said, the website for Sim Racing Online is pretty substantial with stats and stuff. It's alright. 1 out of 4. So 2 out of... Oh, okay, yeah. So the 2 out of 4 World Series was P2s and GTEs Asian Championship. So that was quite fun. And then we did the third round, which, as I said, was the Grand Prix 1984 series. And now the last round is the World Sports Cars 70 and GT Revival. So there we go. There we go indeed. Also, in the background, I have been beavering away at making some of the broadcast utilities. I won't lie, I'm not a coder. I don't know anything about code, so I've been using ChatGPT to help me with some Google scripts, which have been able to convert certain files to certain formats, taking spreadsheets and converting them into the format needed for the game. So that's been very, very helpful. And I'm trying to make a public facing version, so I was writing some instructions. So I might at some point write an article on my website detailing how the tool is used, because the broadcast tools that we are using, what you can see on screen at the moment, they're kind of half finished. They are functional up to a point, but they do have some, let's just say, unfinished features. Gosh, they're pushing me a little too hard. So does that mean that Philip has ruined his tyres in this 27 minutes of 30 minutes? Perhaps. Looks like there might be about 2 or 3 laps left. In fact, it says there's 3 laps left according to the counter at the top. I don't believe it, however. So yeah, so there's certain things you've got to convert to the JSON format, to the JSON format, and to work with the broadcast utilities. As I say, a lot of the stuff is kind of half implemented, so you have to kind of live with some of the features left in, or some of the broken features that are left into the broadcast stuff. So 3 minutes to go. Now I'm using a plugin for Factor 2 which does switch the cameras for me. It picks the action up, so it tries to pick the closest battles on track. If it finds that someone has maybe spun out, it tries to find those. If there's perhaps like 2 cars on the track that are battling with each other, it tries to go on board. So maybe some of the drivers are just having a little bit of fun with burning up their tyres now. This is the last race of the season for the Lambo Sprint Series. However, I'm glad to see the back of this car. I did not like driving it at all. I'm bent over the curbs. It kind of reminds me of I think I remember seeing a Formula 1 photo of someone jumping over the curbs like that. They got it a little bit wrong, and the car actually came nearly fully off the ground. Can't remember who it was though. I'm just trying to think back when they started running this track. I think it was 1985. Yeah. So it ran from 1985 to 1995. And after 95 it got shortened. The back straight got shortened. I don't know if that was because of Mika Häkkinen's accident, but it was obviously used heavily for V8 supercars. And it feels a little bit muted. So as cars come out of some of the S-bends and they would have been heading up to the back straight, it turns right and cuts short the back straight. I think I prefer the longer layout. I don't particularly like it when there's like curbs in the middle of the road on some of the street circuits. It seems to be a habit that some track makers do, just to kind of, they can't move the walls as such, or some of the natural road, so they end up just hammering in curbs to make corners a bit sharper, or just changing the layout. It's not my thing. I was just testing out some Formula 1 tracks the other day actually, which I was testing out historic cars on modern F1 tracks, which was quite fun. So 70s F1 cars on modern tracks with all their runoff and big curves and stuff. So one which I kind of liked was racing at Baku. It's probably not somewhere I'd like to race, but I didn't mind doing some laps around it in an older F1 car. But if you need any of some of the F1 tracks, Sim Racing Hub is where I get them all. So the website called Sim Racing Hub, which is actually a league, but they give away all the tracks that they leave open all the tracks that they do for their league. So Costas is coming round to finish this lap and across the line in first place. This will be a win for Kanzaris. He did as much as he could, but unfortunately it's not going to be enough to take the championship this time. But he was strong from the start. Lars is following up behind and crosses the finishing line as we see Philip Pichler coming out of his favourite corner, the hairpin. His tyres look about shot. A way to round out the series, grabbing a third place. Unfortunately, Bjorn Hagman had that problem coming into the pits and then decided to call it quits. That actually rhymed. And John Van der Geest didn't actually get off the line, but I'm going to say he will score points. I'm going to take an executive decision, although it's not up to me. But I think if you take the start, you probably score points, but whether he takes himself out of it or not, I'm not entirely sure. Right, so series done, series down. That's it, all finished. Now hopefully, have I got my JSON things to work? Series standings. I did update them in the background, cheekily, because there wasn't a lot of change in the positions. So it looks like from my calculations that Lars Hagman does come away with the win. 3 points from Kansas in second. Philip Pichler quite a way off in third with 23. And Tony Talviti only able to compete in, it looks like 3 races this season. Comes away with a 4th in the championship. Bjorn Hagman did score in this final round and comes away with 5th place in the championship. Then we have 6th place John Van der Geest. Then we got me that did score some points, but I only competed in 3. That's not quite right. The points are not quite right. Oh, yes, they are. Yes, I'm looking at the wrong. It's it's 8 points. I'm tied for 6th place, I think, if I can actually read that character, unless that is 8 and 6. It's quite difficult. Nick Westy comes in 8th. And then we've got Fabio Lozio that took part in the first round. And Ed Jones that took part in only the 3rd round. So that rounds out our points and rounds out our series. How about that? So, upcoming. Let's look at the schedule for Sim Racing Online Championships. Where are we? So that's November 13th, I've been done with. November the 16th, this Sunday, is the World Sports Car 70 Series and GT Revival, so 2 classes on track. I believe we are heading to a track called Sportsland Sugo, so a Japanese track, and I believe this is the 4th round of 6. So we'll be at Sportsland Sugo, and then a couple of weeks after that we'll be at Fuji, the 1993 layout, and then the last round is Spa-Francorchamps. And I believe it's probably either the 80s layout or the 90s layout. I cannot remember. Okay, then the Monday after that, Monday the 17th of November, will be Automobilista 2. I will be competing in what I think is the final round of the 2002 BMW Turbo Series. I've not had much luck in this series. I've had some technical problems. Fingers crossed that all of the technical problems are solved, because I managed to compete in one of the other series without any faults. So that should be at Alton Park. On Wednesday the 19th of November will be the Le Mans Ultimate Prep Series. So that will be P2s and GT3s. And then we've got the Group 2 Lotus Cortina Series in R Factor 2, which is starting on the 23rd of November. That's a Sunday. And as I say, that is a 3 a 3-round series, all at British tracks, Donington Park, Cadwell Park, and Alton Park. And then we've got the 3rd round of the Brazilian Stock Car Series, which I take part in as well, which is on Tuesdays, 25th of November. So, thank you for watching, everybody. It's been quite interesting just sitting having a chat for a change rather than sitting in the hot seat or the sim rig. But yeah, I'll be in the sim rig for the next round of the BMW Turbo Championship, and I'll be behind the microphone this Sunday. So I'm trying to mix it up a bit. I think this is I looked back at my schedule and it looked like this was like the busiest I've ever been. I'm doing a weird and wonderful, trying to mix up the sims a little more, not just doing R Factor 2 stuff, but doing Automobilista 2, and maybe I'll do some race room in the new year, depending on what Sim Racing Online does. So, yeah. So when I'm behind the microphone, it will be on Sim Racing Online's YouTube channel. So just put Sim Racing Online into YouTube, and you'll find all of the broadcasted series. And I broadcast that along with another member called Rob Milliken. I tend to do all of the graphic stuff and try and make the presentation to look like it's done in the real world. So yeah. So thank you for watching, everybody. It was unfortunately it wasn't well attended in the final round of this series, but hoping that we can maybe bump up the drivers in the new year. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. See you later.